Good afternoon, everyone. A very warm welcome to all distinguished guests, faculty members, students, and participants joining us today. It gives me an immense pleasure as the convener of this online lecture to welcome you all to this significant academic session dedicated to the thoughts, vision, enduring legacy of Bharat Ratna Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, the principal architect of Indian Constitution, social reformer, economics, and a tireless campaign of equality and justice. Dr. Ambedkar's philosophy and contribution continues to guide our nation in its pursuit of democracy, social equality, and constitutional morality. Today's lectures offer us a valuable opportunity to revisit and reflect upon his timeless ideals. First, I extend my heartfelt welcome to our respected Vice-Chancellor Madam, Professor Nandini Sahu, Amazon's best-selling author, Professor of English, and former Director, School of Foreign Language, IGNOU, New Delhi. She is the author of 23 books. Apart from being a double gold medalist during her graduation and post-graduation, Professor Sahu is a recipient of the gold medal from the Honorable Vice President of India for her contribution to English studies, the Michael Mudusharan Academy Award 2024, the Lifetime Achievement Award 2024, the Tagore Samman 2025, and the Honorary Fellowship 2025 from International Academy of Ethics, India. Madam's visionary leadership and unwavering support continues to inspire the academic community of the university. It is my distinct privilege to warmly welcome Professor Sibaji Pratim Basu, our distinguished speaker for today's lecture. Professor Sibaji Pratim Basu is presently working as Distinguished Research Professor at Adamas University, Kolkata. Formerly the Vice Chancellor of Vidyasagar University, Professor Basu taught political science at Vidyasagar University, widely known as a political commentator for decades, and with a long teaching and research career, he has authored books and articles on various subjects beside politics. Some of his monographs and edited books include The Poet and the Mahatma, Engagement of Nationalism and Internationalism, The Fleeing People of South Asia, Selection of Refugee Watch, Politics in Hunger Regime, Essay on Right to Food in West Bengal, Forced Migration and Media Review, Populism, Rabindranath Tagore, Axiology of Politics, among others. His recent published book, Tottter Poschimi Baranda, on the contemporary Western theories, published in 2025, has earned critical attention. He has also contributed articles to edited volumes published by Macmillan Publishers, Anthem Press, Oxford University Press, Sage Publishers, Routledge, Palgrave Macmillan, Social Science Press, Front Page Publishers, etc. A member of the editorial board of Vidyasagar Rachana Samudra, the complete writing of Pandit Ishwarchandra Vidyasagar, published by Vidyasagar University, Mr. Basu has contributed to a large number of post-editorial articles to Anandabazar Potrika, the highest circulating Bengal daily, and also in Desh, a leading Bengali literary fortnightly. In 2018, he has received the Shiksha Ratna Award of the Government of West Bengal. We extend our sincere gratitude to both our esteemed dignitaries for graciously joining us and enriching this occasion with their presence. Without further delay, I respectfully invite Vice Chancellor Madam to kindly deliver her inaugural address. Thank you.
Namaskar, Professor Shivaji Pratim Basu. We are very delighted and honored to have you as a speaker in the Hindi University Distinguished Lecture Series on various subjects. Uh, for your record, I would like to inform you here that last year, in the year 2025, since I joined, till date we have more than 70 eminent speakers who have delivered lectures on various subjects in our university. And we have been waiting for you. In fact, I have been talking to you. I have been trying to get an appointment with you, some time with you. So, but ultimately it happened today, and I'm very happy. And in fact, we were looking for a subject that you can fit into, or rather we can fit into, to listen to an eminent scholar like you. And for the audiences and for my faculty, I would inform a couple of things. Professor Shivaji Pratim Basu was the first person in West Bengal. When I came last year to West Bengal, he was the very first person who I met. And I was highly influenced and inspired by his scholarship and his keen appreciation of knowledge systems. I met him in a meeting which I cannot record here, but in the very meeting when I met Professor Shivaji Pratim Basu, uh, looking at the research publications and talking about academics and important areas of pedagogy, I was highly inspired by him and I wanted to work with him. And I was fortunate enough to join West Bengal as a Vice Chancellor. And since then, there has been no looking back. Professor Shivaji Pratim Basu is not just a very dear friend for me, he has been a guide and I'm not exaggerating, rather a guardian to me in West Bengal. And I'm delighted that I'm here in front of you. So when we thought about holding a lecture on Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, I was looking at important scholars who have been working on seminal subjects on Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, and we came across your research, though we had an idea about your research, but when we came across your research and also the faculty members of political science from Hindi University, they showed keen interest in listening to you. Then I approached Professor Sibaji Pratim Basu, and in the first instance itself, he was kind enough to accept my invitation. Hindi University is privileged to have a speaker like you. I would not delay your lecture any further. I would have my questions and queries, if any, after you have spoken. So we welcome you to Hindi University Special Lecture Series, and this important lecture is going to be a part of our YouTube series, Hindi University Lecture Series, which we will be putting in our website and our newsletter and everywhere. And we're planning to do some MOOCs in very near future. Your lecture will also be a part of our MOOCs. I'm sure and I have the conviction that the faculty members of political science and the students of the Department of Political Science of Hindi University will be highly benefited by your scholarship and your discourses. Now I make it open for Kajali to take it further. Looking forward to listening to you, sir. Thank you and welcome once again.
Thank you, madam. Your words have truly set the tone for today's session and have given us much to reflect upon. Now it is my privilege to invite our esteemed speaker, Professor Shivaji Pratim Basu, to deliver his speech. Sir, we're eagerly looking forward to enlightening your enlightening talks.
Thank you, Professor Sahu, and thank you, Kajri, Dr. Kajri, uh, for inviting me and for this welcome address. And what Nandini ji just said is please take it as an exaggeration from a friend. Okay, nothing more.
No, it's not
And
an ex.
this is the year, we are celebrating the 136th. He was born in 1891, so this is the 136th birth anniversary of the Indian polymath, social reformer, and above all the founding father of Indian Constitution, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. It is also a matter of pleasure that to commemorate his immortal life and invaluable works, West Bengal Hindi University has organized a special lecture. And at the very outset, I take this opportunity to extend my heartfelt thanks first to Professor Nandini Sahu, the Honorable Vice-Chancellor of Hindi University, who is running the university, this very infant university, in very able hands and in right directions. I have listened and I know about her. She's a dear friend and a well-known scholar of English literature, and herself a renowned poet of Hindi literature whose works have been translated into many languages, including English. And I had the good fortune of going through some of his papers. And there is a book, especially on Professor Sahu, that only tells you that how important she is in the academic and creative world at this young age, very young age. She's younger than me in many years, I think. And secondly, my thanks also go to all the academic persons, the faculties involved in teaching in this budding university. And thirdly, my deep affection is also meant for my dear students who are present here. Uh, there are, numerous tangible and historically grounded reasons for remembering Dr. Ambedkar. However, among the most salient, according to me, and analytically significant aspects that distinguish him from other Indian thinkers are his conception of the nation as a moral social formation, his notion of freedom as the essence of life, and his articulation of a universal principle of morality. And all these developed through a sustained critique of social irrationalities that are part of a caste-ridden patriarchal society. So I have chosen this topic, my lecture, I have chosen the title of my lecture as Social Over the Political, Ambedkar's idea of social justice and democracy. And I apologize before the beginning, since I'm not very good at Hindi. I can understand, I can speak, but I cannot deliver a whole lecture in Hindi. So I am delivering this in English. And I can, whenever, if possible, sometimes I can also use one or two terms in Hindi. So for Hindi, they have translated, I have seen the university has translated the name of my, name of the title already in Hindi. So there is no need to go about it. I start with some basic features. We have to, before beginning, I'll also be dealing with his, with his life. Briefly, very briefly, I will present a brief life sketch of Dr. Ambedkar. But before that, some basic features of his social and political thought should be noted. Dr. Ambedkar frequently emphasized, that he prioritized social transformation over political power. And he argued that political democracy is hollow without social democracy, that is liberty, equality, and fraternity. And he has taken these ideals of liberty, equality, and fraternity from the ideals of French Revolution, which happened in 1789 in France. Ambedkar asserted that caste-based discrimination undermines all democratic processes. If the society is very much caste-ridden, it is very much hierarchical, then how you can claim equality in the sphere of politics? Otherwise, if you make have same vote, same value of your vote in the political sphere, but that will be absolutely meaningless when it comes to the societal plane. So social equality is first important, or it should run parallelly with the political equality. So basis should be, he always fought for political freedom, but that political freedom should be based on the plane of social equality. That is, and for Hindu society, caste is the main factor for inequality. So, and he also believed in and he always wanted to do away with the whole caste system, which he expressed very, rationally. He gave so many reasons in his famous book, in his seminal book called Annihilation of Caste, published in 1936. And there he very strongly, argued that caste should be absolutely annihilated, eliminated from the Indian society. Ambedkar argued that even if India, he argued that, of course, before the independence, if India gained political freedom, it would lead to a tyranny of the upper castes if the social system remained fundamentally unequal. So that was his starting point. And he also argued in favor of, and he did in this direction practically. He fought for the constitutional justice for the backward classes, quote unquote, backward classes, especially the untouchables. And he did this. He wanted to do some justice, uh, and it is expressed in Article 17 of Indian Constitution, wherein he wanted to mandate social rights, including the abolition of untouchability. And also he wanted to introduce, and he introduced reservations. So that is a very, uh, kind of very critical and very controversial also for many. But according to him, it was very necessary. Uh, for this, he fought for it, he thought for it, introducing reservations to ensure representation and equality. We can discuss on, especially we can during the interaction session or about this, the pros and cons of this provision. And he also held that the existing Hindu social order was based on inequality sanctioned by religious traditions, which needed to be replaced by a social system based on human dignity and merit. His approach, absolutely, he also stood for merit, but he said to reach to that plane, you have to first give everyone an equal status, not only politically, but also culturally, socially, and economically. And he wanted to establish a social system based on human dignity and merit. And his approach prioritized restructuring of society, where the individuals are the focus of development, not the caste system. So, for this reason, he wanted to do away with the caste system from the Hindu society. But first, we must also have to have some brief idea about his life and important trajectories of his life. B.R. Ambedkar, whose actual name is Bhimrao Ramji Ambedkar, was born on 14th April. We have just passed it this year, 14th April 1891, in the town and military cantonment of Mau in today's Madhya Pradesh. At that time, it was in the CP, that is central provinces. He was the 14th and the last child of Ramji Maloji Satpal, an officer of British Indian Army. You know, he was born in a Mahar community, and these Mahars are very famous. They are very famous as fighters, and they always fought many battles under the British East India Company. And his father also was an officer, a subedar, under the British Indian Army. And but his family was actually of a Marathi background, and they came from Ratnagiri district of the modern day Maharashtra. Ambedkar was born into a, as I have told you, Mahar caste, who are treated as were treated as untouchables and subjected to socio-economic and cultural discrimination. Although they attended school, the boys from Mahar community, Mahar caste, they attended school, they were segregated and given little attention or help by the teachers, and they were not allowed to sit in the class, but just outside the class, outside the threshold, on the other part of the threshold of the classroom. And they had to sit not on any bench, but they had to carry the gani sacks, chat ka thela jo hai, wo. So they had to carry this gani bag with them from their home, and they had to sit on that. And it was very difficult to get water, drinking water, while they are at school, because when they needed to drink water, someone from a higher caste had to pour that water from a very high place, height, from a height, and they have to standing below that flow of water, the flow of water coming from the jug or something. Uh, they have to drink water like that. And this task was usually performed for the young Ambedkar by the school peon. And if the peon was not available on a particular day, in a particular day, or maybe he was on leave, uh, then he had to go the whole day without water. And he described this event as later in his writings, in that it's because when he was, you know, writing, he was autobiographical kind of, memory, where he said in his school days, when the peon was absent, he didn't get any water. So no peon, no water. He expressed this as no peon, no water. Peon nahi, to pani nahi. So in 1897, Ambedkar's family moved to Mumbai from Mao, where Ambedkar became the only untouchable student enrolled in the famous at the Elphinstone High School. It is a collegiate school, Elphinstone Collegiate School. And in 1906, when he was about 15 years old, according to the custom of his family at that time, he married a 9-year-old girl, namely Ramabai. In 1907, he passed his matriculation examination in the, and perhaps he was the first person from the Mahar community to be matriculated in that year. And in the following year, he entered Elphinstone College, which was affiliated to the University of Bombay, now Mumbai. And by 1912, he obtained his degree in economics and political science from Bombay University, and he prepared to take up employment with the Baroda state government. Baroda, Baroda was a princely state, and there it was run by the Gaikwar princes or Gaikwar monarchs. In 1913, at the age of 22, this is a very game changer moment of his life, when he was awarded a Baroda state scholarship of 11.5 sterling pound per month for 3 years, which allowed him to continue his postgraduate education at Columbia University in New York City. It's a very famous university, Columbia University. It is still very important, especially for the English and post-colonial studies. People like Edward Said has had taught here, and presently also Gayatri Chakraborty Spivak, the famous translator of Derrida, she also worked here, and perhaps he is still associated with this Columbia University. So he joined the Columbia University, and he passed his MA exam in June 1915 amidst the First World War. He was deeply influenced by his teacher and famous American political philosopher, John Dewey. Perhaps you have heard his name, especially the political science students of John Dewey, and influenced by his idea of democracy. Ambedkar received his PhD degree later, after passing MA, 12 years after. He got his PhD degree in economics from Columbia in 1927. And in October 1916, he enrolled himself for the Bar at Law course at Garrison in England. He went to England, in London. And at the same time, he enrolled at the London School of LSE, London School of Economics, where he started working on a doctoral thesis. But in June 1917, he had to come back to India because his scholarship from Baroda ended. And he was an avid reader, of many subjects, many books, and he has a huge collection of books. And he dispatched these books on a different ship uh, from the one he was on. And that ship was torpedoed because it was the war was going on. It was torpedoed and sunk by a German submarine. So all the collection of his books, which he collected in England, were submerged. After 4 years, he completed a master's degree at LSE in 1921. So he was in fact he had the doctoral degree from Columbia and then from also LSE later. And in 1923, he completed a DSc in economics, Doctor of Science in economics, which was all awarded by the University of London. And in the same year, he was called to the bar at Garry's Inn. So he became a lawyer also. But earlier to that period, Ambedkar, when he came back to India in 1917, he was appointed as the military secretary to the Gaikwad Prince, but had to quit in a very short time. Thereafter, he was almost jobless, but to meet the needs of his family, he did many odd jobs. Like he worked as a private tutor, then as an accountant, and he also established an investment consulting business. But this business, it failed when the clients learned that Ambedkar was an untouchable. Later in 1918, he became a professor of political economy in Sydenham College of Commerce and Economics in Mumbai. Ambedkar had been invited to testify before the Southborough Committee, which was preparing the Government of India Act of 1919. You know, the Government of India Act first started in 1858 after the when the empire, the Queen Victoria's, declaration after the proclamation of Queen Victoria, when the territories of the East India under East India Company was taken into the British Empire. So at that time, this 1858, the first Indian Government of India Act was made. That was the constitutional act at that time. No constitution was there. So he was, at that time, the Government of India Act 1858 came. Then came 1861's Indian Councils Act. Then 1891's again Indian Councils Act. Then 1909's Morley Minto reforms, and again Indian Councils Act. Then there was a little all these acts put together. Another act came in 1915, but the very important act was 1919's Government of India Act, which actually for the first time, distributed the powers between the center and the provinces. So Ambedkar, there at that meeting, at that hearing, Ambedkar argued for creating a separate electorates and reservation for untouchables and for other religious communities. Ambedkar went on to work also as a legal professional parallel to his, professorship in various institutions. In 1926, for example, he successfully defended 3 non-Brahmin leaders who had accused that the Brahmin community of India, Brahmin community is ruining India. And where then they subsequently sued and libel, and Ambedkar got them freed. By 1927, Ambedkar had decided to launch active movements. Now here comes from 1927 his active association, activism for the social equality, for the untouchables. And Ambedkar had decided to launch an active movements against untouchability. He began with public movements and marches to open up public drinking water sources. He also began to struggle for the right to enter, in Hindu temples. All castes were not allowed at that time, and still there are some temples where the low castes, so-called low castes, are not allowed to enter into the temples. So that hurt used to hurt so many the sentiments of so many devotees from the lower castes, and he led a satyagraha in Mahar to, and he also protested, and he also led a satyagraha in Mahar, and he also led this satyagraha, in fact, to draw water also, not only for going to visit temples, but to draw water from the main water tank of the town by the untouchables. In a conference in late 1927, Ambedkar publicly condemned the classic Hindu text called Manusmriti, the laws of Manu. Manu was a lawgiver, you know. In fact, what we find in ancient times, there were varnas. Varnas are not same as castes. It is based on gunas or virtues. So a person who was born as a Brahmin can become also a Asura. The instance is, that Ravana. Ravana was the son of a Brahmin, a sage, but his qualities led him to become, later he became an Asura. Likewise, Vishwamitra. Vishwamitra was born in Kshatriya Varna, but later he achieved his Brahmanship. Later, he became a sage by his tapasya or meditations. But Manusmriti uh, did this divisions as which he made it the Manus. There are so many Manus, but the Manusmriti made this system a permanent hierarchy, which is associated with birth. Uh, so on December 25th, 1927, Ambedkar led thousands of followers to burn copies of Manusmriti. In every year since then, 25th December, the Baradin Kadin is celebrated as Manusmriti Dahan Din. Manusmriti Dahan means burning day. Manusmriti burning day. Still they are burning the copies of Manusmriti, these Ambedkarites and the Dalits. And in 1932, British colonial government announced the formation of a separate electorate for the depressed classes. So this where from this term Dalit came, the Dalit is the Hindi translation of the depressed. So depressed, Dalits mean the depressed classes in the communal award. And Mahatma Gandhi, as you know, fiercely opposed a separate electorate for the untouchables, saying that he feared that such an arrangement would divide the Hindu community. And Gandhiji protested by fasting while he was in prison, because, in 1930, he gave the call for Purna Swaraj, and by civil disobedience, and he and his companions, he led them to Dandi, a place near the sea, and he made some disobeying the law, prevalent law, colonial law. They prepared salt, and he was jailed. And during his prison time, he protested and fasting. He was at that time in the Yaraveda jail in Pune and Pune. And following the fast, joint meetings were held with Ambedkar, because Ambedkar was proposing this, separate electorates for the depressed classes. And on 25th September 1932, the agreement known as the Pune Pact was signed by Ambedkar on behalf of the depressed classes among Hindus. And Gandhi was not a signatory, but another person, another well-known person, namely Madan Mohan Malavya or Malavya, he signed that pact with Ambedkar on behalf of the other Hindus, that is the upper caste Hindus. The agreement gave reserved seats for the depressed classes in the provisional legislatures within the general electorate. That was a kind of an agreement which satisfied to some extent Mahatma Gandhi. But actually, the primary and secondary elections allowed untouchables in practice to choose their own candidates. And in 1935, Ambedkar was appointed the principal of the Government Law College of Bombay. At that time, it was known as Bombay, and now it is Mumbai. And he held this position for 2 years, and he settled in Bombay, built his own house, and there he these collections, a huge collection, 50,000 books, a personal collection of 50,000 books. All the vice chancellors will understand the value of 50,000 books. I think your Hindi university, I don't know how many books. Even in my university, my former university, 50,000 books, it really is a huge collection. And yeah, he was such a book-loving person. But at that, in the same year, his wife Ramabai died after a long illness. In 1936, Ambedkar founded the Independent Labour Party, which competed in the next election in 1937. So in 1935 also there was another Government of India Act of 1935, which served as the basis as constitutional law before coming of our own constitution. So the British 1935 Act was very important, and on the basis of that constitutional act, Government of India Act, a general election was held, and Ambedkar's party from Bombay, from central legislatures, they competed, and for the 13 reserved and 4 general seats, and the party was very successful because they secured 11 out of 13 reserved seats and 3 out of 4 general seats. Ambedkar then served as the Defense Advisory Committee and the Viceroy's Executive Council as Minister of Labor. He was appointed in 1937's the Viceroy's government. Upon India's independence on 15 August 1947, the new Prime Minister, Indian Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru, invited Ambedkar to serve as the Dominion of India's first law minister. And 2 weeks later, he was appointed, for which everyone better knows him, as the chairman of the drafting committee of the Constitution in the Constituent Assembly to draft the Constitution of India. And later, Stephen Calabresi, a famous American, legal philosopher, legal expert, along with Martha Nussbaum, they called Indian Constitution as Ambedkar's Constitution. And Ambedkar, being very fed up with this discrimination, he once thought of converting himself and his followers into Sikhism, but he later apprehended that he might get some second-rate Sikh status. Instead, around 1950, he began to ponder about his attention rather went to Buddhism, and Ambedkar organized a formal public ceremony for himself and his supporters in Nagpur on 14 October 1956. And Ambedkar completed his own conversion along with his wife. He remarried again in 1948. And he then proceeded to convert some 5 lakhs of his supporters who were gathered around him. His work on Buddha or Karl Marx and revolution and counter-revolution in ancient India remained incomplete. Since 1948, Ambedkar was suffering from diabetes. He remained in bed from June to October in 1954 due to medication and side effects and his poor eyesight. His health worsened during 1955, and 3 days after completing his final manuscript on Buddha and his Dhamma, Ambedkar died in his sleep on 6 December This is a remarkable day also, when the demolition of Babri Masjid later in 1992 happened anyway. And on 6 December 1956, at his home in Delhi. Now we should have some idea about his social and political thought. So you have, now you know the man in a very brief way also, but you have a brief light sketch with him. I'm sorry. So social and political thought. First, I will hover on this problem called social inequality. And Ambedkar made a comprehensive inquiry about the then existing Hindu social order and argued that the Hindu social order had the sanction of Hindu religion. In his works that included Philosophy of Hinduism, is a book, Hindu Social Order, its Essential Principles, and of course, Annihilation of Caste, he attempted at explaining, interpreting, and criticizing the Hindu social order and came up with his own normative ideas of an alternative system of society which was to be based on justice. So justice is the basic principle. The justice means equal treatment, equality, basically. The first principle of this was, according to Ambedkar, of Hindu social order, is the principle of graded inequality. Graded inequality. This principle is the fundamental one which divided the society both vertically and horizontally. As per this principle, the society was made hierarchical, with Brahmins occupying the top rank, followed by Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, Shudras, and Ati Shudras, or the untouchables. The principle of gradation had spiritual, moral, and legal sanctions, and thus there was no sphere of life which was not regulated by this principle. He also observed that this principle had encompassed human life in all spheres, including social, political, and economic and cultural realms. Graded inequality was also accompanied by hierarchical and graded entitlements also. It is not a social or religious hierarchy, graded inequality. It is also, it also affected the entitlements to various rights to different classes. The entitlements increased in ascending order from the below, ascending order from untouchables to Brahmins. In these hierarchical agreements, rights and privileges of one class became disabilities or denial of rights to the lower classes, particularly for the untouchables. Professor Sukhdev Thorat, I'm sorry, Professor Sukhdev Thorat is a famous Ambedkarite scholar. He wrote in 2008, and he also had been the former chairman of UGC. Thorat described it as the phenomenon of fixation of rights, where it left no scope of individual capabilities, choices, and inclinations. In other societies, of course, there were such stratifications, but these stratifications, for example, in the European societies, was basically these were economic stratifications existed. That stratifications also existed. But there was freedom to move from one occupation to another. You can move from one occupation to another. Such free mobility prevented social isolation and exclusion. Prevention of such mobility hindered establishment of a free social order in India. The second principle that Ambedkar put forward in interpreting Hindu social order was that the Varnas were based on occupations, and since the Varnas had divine sanction, each class has to follow the work assigned to his or her class. Individuals had no choice to change his occupation, and punishments were given for violating the principles of occupation. So मानिए एक चमार है, उसको बेटा भी चमार ही बनेगा, ऐसा ही रूल था. So the caste system provided the mechanisms of maintain the order of the society through social and economic penalties. The instruments of social and economic boycott, uh, जिसको पानी बंद हो जाएगा, धोपा नापित सब बंद हो जाएगा, ऐसे कुछ है थे उस समय. So banning of uh, the targeted person from many social whatever privileges they got at that time, and that economic boycott were the main forms of penalties laid down against the violating person. Since a Shudra could not undertake jobs other than serving the higher castes, the upward mobility in social and economic realm was strictly, severely restricted. Finally, Ambedkar observed that the assignment of class was not based on individual merit, it was decided by birth. So, एक अछूत का जो बेटा और बेटी जितना भी उसका प्रतिभा हो वो अछूत ही रहेगा और दूसरा काम भी ऊपर नहीं जा सकेगा उसके मेरिट के बल पर. So denial of equal access to education, because Ambedkar pointed out what is the reason why they were not given the chance for upward mobility, because there was not equal access to education. In Ambedkar's view, the concept of formal education in Hindu social order was quite narrow. Formal education was confined to the study of religious scriptures like Vedas in schools, which were established for this purpose. But the state, whereas in other countries, in Europe, the state was involved to spread education. It spread, establish educational institutions, given donations for the educational institutions. All this money came from the kings and queens of England. It went to Oxford universities like Oxford University, then Cambridge. So all these were, to some extent, they got the sponsorship from the state. But in India, the state never held any responsibility for opening establishment for study of arts and science other than, Vedas, teaching, Chatushpatis that concern life of merchants and artisans. In the absence of formal educational system, each class managed to transmit its progeny the ways doing things it was traditionally engaged in doing. Thus, literacy became an inherent part of the class or caste system. Fixation of rights within a class and graded inequality resulted in the denial of rights to education and opportunities to develop human capabilities. In this light, we have to understand the significance of Ambedkar's oft-quoted slogan, which says, educate, that is his advice to the untouchables, educate, agitate, and organize. Now I am coming briefly to his political thought. Actually, I approached his political thought from his social thought, from the vantage point of his social thought. Ambedkar's political philosophy was closely related to the most immediate and accumulated issues of human life and essentially in accordance with the fact of the society. Thus, in order to understand political ideas of Ambedkar, it would be necessary to understand his thoughts about interrelations of state, government and society and individuals. It would also be necessary to deliberate about this concept, ideologies of political theory and political arguments as put forward by Ambedkar. Ambedkar was a great admirer of parliamentary system of government. According to him, there are three inherent characteristics of this system. First, free and fair elections from time to time. Secondly, in a form of government where no single individual can presume the authority, the supreme authority. And The laws are to be made by the representatives of the people. Finally, the elected representatives and legislatures and ministers must have the confidence of the people renewed in themselves at given periodicity after intervals. And he was also aware of the pitfalls of parliamentary democracy. And Ambedkar wrote that the practice of parliamentary democracy in practice, uh, they they are not, compatible with the economic equality. Thus, in his words, and I quote, "It failed to realize the significance of equality and did not even endeavor to strike a balance between liberty and equality, with the result that liberty swallowed equality and thus left a progeny of inequalities." He emphasized the need to strengthen the social and economic foundation for a smooth functioning of democracy. Thus, his concept of, and he stood for socialism as a part of the, he wanted to put socialism into Indian constitution. He stood for socialism. He also stood for, so in this way, he had similarities with Fabian socialism or the democratic socialism as put forward by Pandit Nehru. But there are differences because Panditji came from a Brahminical background and Ambedkar came from a very low, untouchable background. So for Panditji, he did not try to, this kind of, he did not stood like Ambedkar, the reforms of the society, the fight for the untouchables, which made Ambedkar and Panditji, although there are some similarities in their belief in parliamentary democracy or state socialism, Ambedkar and Nehru had also basic differences. Ambedkar's political thought is essentially in accordance with the facts of society. He did not consider that society to be an isolated and self-sustaining entity. He considered state as an organization where there exists interrelationship between man, society, and the state. To him, true freedom of human being is not merely political, it is social. Ambedkar's idea also of a federal state. Now, this will be just, I'll be concluding very soon. Ambedkar's idea of a federal state, because he's the main architect, served as the main architect of the Indian Constitution as the chairman of the drafting committee. And his idea of a federal state attaches more importance to institutional means for the solution of human affairs. It has adopted a middle way between centralization and decentralization. His concept of federalism means a state is a federation in normalcy, but unitary in emergency. When a war comes or there is a national calamity, then it is one state. Otherwise, in normalcy, it is a federal structure that he championed. For him, democracy also meant an all-round development of human soul. In his speech to Constituent Assembly, Ambedkar said, "Political democracy cannot last unless there lies at the base social democracy." So I think I'm running out of time. But in his work, in his writing, States and Minorities, he argued that political rights are meaningless without social economic conditions that enable their exercise. And this anticipates the capability approach of Amartya Sen, where freedom is defined as substantive capability rather than formal enlightenment. In contemporary India, multiple forms of democratic breakdown reflect the weakening of constitutional morality. Caste atrocities we see Gender violence and communal polarization demonstrate that equality remains formally guaranteed, constitutionally guaranteed, but socially undermined. Recently, Christopher uh, Jaffrelot, another scholar from America and from Columbia University, argues that India is witnessing nowadays a shift towards from civic kind of democracy to an ethnic kind of democracy, where majoritarian mobilization coexists with formal constitutionalism. This aligns with Ambedkar's warning that political democracy without social democracy is inherently unstable. In conclusion, we can argue, we can argue that Ambedkar's theoretical architecture integrates nationhood, freedom, morality, and constitutionalism into a unified critical framework. His insistence on fraternity as the foundation of nationhood, substantive freedom as the essence of democracy, unconditional morality as ethical universality, and constitutional morality as transformative governance remains profoundly relevant. In contemporary India, where caste violence, gender inequality, and majoritarian politics persist alongside constitutional guarantees, Ambedkar's thought functions both as critique and as a normative horizon. It compels us to recognize that democracy is not merely institutional, but deeply moral and social. The realization of his vision requires not only legal enforcement, but also transformation of social relations and ethical consciousness. With these few words, uh, I end my uh, little talk, uh, this lecture. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. I sincerely thank you, our esteemed speaker, Professor Shivaji Pratim Basu, for the insightful and thought provoking lecture on the life and legacy of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. Through today's discussion, we have been able to better appreciate the depth of his struggle and the enduring relevance of his contribution in shaping our society. Before we proceed to the interactive session, I would now respectfully invite our Vice-Chancellor Madam to share her concluding remarks.
Please.
Thank you, Professor Shivaji. It was a very soothing lecture with lots of humility, and it sounded like music to my ears when I was listening to you. But yes, it was full of powerful and inspirational ideas and concepts and perspectives. It was a very fresh point of view. It was a refreshing point of view on Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. Unlike lots of lectures going on this month on Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, where people or most of the speakers or scholars may not be very comprehensive, or maybe may not be very inclusive and flexible, but you involved flexibility and inclusivity in your lecture. You try to uh, get very refreshed and very interesting and novel and new perspectives on Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. I was listening to you very carefully. I was taking down some notes as well, so that I can use them in the future, giving your reference definitely. So before our faculty members and students ask you some queries if they have, please allow me to put down my points on record here, what I have taken or what I have gained from your lecture. You said that Dr. B.R. Ambedkar prioritizes the social as the foundation of democracy, and you argued that political democracy without social democracy only institutionalizes inequality rather than dismantling it. So you emphasized on that part. That was my gain from your lecture. And then when you said that social justice for Dr. Ambedkar was an ethical and structural project, it required annihilation of caste, as a social system and not as just a legal safeguard or constitutional morality. I cannot agree more. I agree to your point of view. And then when you said that Ambedkar critiques liberal democracy for its formalism, it was very new an idea. And then you exposed how political rights become hollow when social hierarchies, especially caste-based exclusions, remain intact. And that is needed at this point when people are so chaotic, lots of voices are coming from all directions, and not a single voice is distinct. When you give this kind of a perspective, which is so very flexible, probably this is the need of the hour, that we have to think and rethink about our democracy from the point of view of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, a huge philosopher of the world, not just India. Then you said
Thank
that Dr. Ambedkar's conception of democracy is rational. It is not procedural. It is rooted in fraternity, dignity, and social equality. And you critiqued periodic elections of majoritarian rule alone. And then Ambedkar's emphasis on social reforms that challenge nationalist and elite political movements. That was very interesting to me. I'm going to do a little bit more reading on those texts that you mentioned here and there. As a student of English literature and culture studies and folklore studies, probably this lecture is one of the most powerful discourses in recent times that I have come across. And when you quoted Dr. Gayatri Chakraborty Spivak's translation of Derrida, and also you gave references of John Dewey, with these are imperative for this kind of a lecture. We cannot but quote these thinkers when we talk about Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. This lecture is very, very refreshing for me. I'm only repeating myself, and I'm going to do a little bit of more research on what you said, and I'm going to get back to you for more ideas and concepts from you. Thank you so very much for
thank
adding quality to the Hindi University Special Lecture Series. Now
thank
I give it to
thank you. Thank you.
Kajira.
Let me also acknowledge my thanks for within a very this was a very very I have it's a long paper. It was a very part of a long paper. I have only presented half of the paper, but you have summarized everything so beautifully
Okay,
as you
thank you.
only can. And I because I know I also am an avid reader of postmodern literature, post-colonial literature. So, Columbia University, when you hear this name of Columbia University, it comes so many array of, thinkers, English literature and other persons like, Edward Said, and then Gayatri Spivak, then all these persons, Partho Chatterjee. I call him Da because I know him personally. Partho Chatterjee,
Okay.
all these are associated. Also nowadays, Sudipto Koviraj. So all the great social science uh, and basically Ambedkar was trained in this university by none other than John Dewey, who is a very fine, one of the finest, American political philosopher, you know, and so, and I wanted to make this because it was not just कोई पैसा दे दो इसका ये आंदोलन, इसका moral claim है, ये moral ethical claim. So this is something and Ambedkar had always, Ambedkar stood for, merit-based society it should be. But how merit, uh, practically how the all of the society, they cannot have the same merit without, this with these social restrictions and all these things that they have to undergo. So we need equality because of there is inequality. There are
Yes, yes.
inequalities. So that is, it is like John Rawls's, philosophy. The political science students must know about. Must they perhaps have heard and read John Rawls. John Rawls was a very important, political philosopher who wrote in 1971, his book came up, A Theory of Justice, where Rawls said that he he wanted to have a distributive kind of justice. His book is on justice. So distributive kind of justice, what do you distribute? Distribute the liberty and opportunity. Opportunity means, opportunity and liberty. And liberty and opportunity to whom? Which section of the society? To the maximum opportunity to the minimum advantaged. So it is maximum should go to the minimum advantaged. Otherwise, there will be no equality. So this also gives you the logic for reservation. Why we need reservation? We cannot do away with. And after so many years, Ambedkar thought it should go for 15 years and then everything will be okay. But we cannot get away from this kind of reservation. After every 15 years, this reservation is again and again renewed. So anyway, thank you, Professor Sahu, for this kind of observation, and I appreciate it. Now,
Last minute members may ask some questions if you have time, or we will send you the questions.
yes, you can also send me. I'm also running out of time, because I know if one or two questions, I can take one or two questions. If someone,
Maybe one
I can
question we
also,
should
you can
give.
also put question in Hindi. One of my students at Vidyasagar University is working, Madhubanti is there, and she told me that, sir, here you have to speak either in Hindi or in English. So my Hindi is not that good, that I cannot,
No,
but
no
I can
problem.
understand.
We are multilingual. Here our lectures are in English, in Hindi, and in Bangla. Yesterday somebody spoke in Bangla.
Oh
And
my God.
I'm so grateful to you for pointing out about my 23 books. All of them are in English. All my original books are in English. I have written. They are translated to Hindi, Bangla, Spanish,
Yes.
German, the Telugu, Tamil, and
Yes.
Malayalam, and multiple languages. So we are multilingual. We don't mind language. We are flexible and
No,
open to
English, but
languages.
I can speak Bangla, but I can speak also a little bit of Hindi, but that will not be enough for delivering a whole lecture. That is my point.
Yes, yes. That's
Anyway,
absolutely no problem.
if one or two two questions can come, I can answer within
Yeah,
5-10
anyone has a
minutes. 5
question?
minutes. Do you have any
Kajali,
questions,
take
or
any question.
or you can take the questions and mail me? You have my mail. You have my
Okay.
mail ID.
Okay.
Or you
Okay,
can
sir.
WhatsApp
Okay then.
also. Or you can WhatsApp.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am. It is challenging to fully comprehend the magnitude of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar's struggle while living in an independent, modern, urban society, far removed from the social historical conditions in which he has endured and persevered. We express our deeply gratitude to him for his tireless effort and invaluable contribution, which has laid the foundation for a more just and equitable society. We will now move on to the interactive session. I invite the participants to kindly share their questions and thoughts.
Two questions.
Please,
Kajali,
if
we'll
anybody
take
have
only two
questions,
questions. Only
Because I'm in
two
my
questions.
office.
Rest we
But
can
I'm
make.
not at home. I'm in my office of
Yes.
please,
Alabama University,
someone,
Kolkata.
if
Where from I'm
Right.
doing this. Okay.
two or three person has raised their hands, please take over.
Please.
Take just one and two. The rest you can mail him. I will take his email ID.
Okay. Sure.
Okay, please, Ansuya, you have raised your hand. Please
Surya
take
Ray.
over.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Good afternoon, sir and ma'am. My name is Ansurya Rai, student of Political Science, 4th SEM at Hindu University. Thank you, sir, for this thought provoking lecture. It was really a wonderful talk. But, sir, I have a question that why Ambedkar's inclination was more prone towards political inequality rather than social inequality, sir. Thank you, sir.
No, he always, as you can gather from my the title of my um, lecture, that it was social over the political. So society, he prioritized society. Without society, without social equality, there cannot be any political equality. Otherwise, it will be a hollow thing. One man, one vote is there. But when you go out from move out from the election booth, polling station, then you are unequal from other persons. Especially, we do not. It is very shameful for me to say that although we do not have such deep-seated, casteism in Bengal, but in other parts of India, we often hear that this deep-seated casteism, discrimination over castes, and they do not even the different castes, especially the lower castes, are not allowed to eat together in hostels also. So that pains us, that pains me, and pains us. Many all that will pain all the sensitive minds. Why should there be this? So Ambedkar said you have to have the equality in the social plane to have so that can lead you to a very successful democracy where political equality and social equality will match each other. That will be compatible. These two should be compatible with each other. So that was Ambedkar's teaching.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir, for your time and words.
Thank you. And another question, if there is one from the faculties, also you can ask question. This is a seminar.
Vishwajit is waiting. Looks like Vishwajit, are you waiting? Ask a question. You can.
Simran, I
Yes,
can.
yes, one of student also. Uh,
Simran,
uh, yes. Uh,
Simran,
Simran, you can ask.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, sir. I'm
good
Simran
afternoon.
Sahu, fourth
Yes.
semester student from Political Science Department. Thank you so much, sir, for your excellent speech. Sir, I have a query. Can I ask?
Yes, please.
Sir, do you think that India has achieved Ambedkar's vision of social justice? If not, then why?
It's a very difficult question. Only
It's a
constitutional
difficult.
justice, what we have achieved, Simran, we have achieved on some legal, rather entitlement, the Dalits, the untouchables, they got. But actually, if we cannot change our mindset, it is in our mind. If we cannot change our mindset, that in fact you have in old days Kolkata also, you will find in great mansions are there so many. It was earlier known as the city of palaces, and there were spiral ladders also behind that used to exist behind every great mansions. Why these spiral ladders? These are for the sweepers to go and come out, cleaning the bathrooms, the you know lavatories, etc. They are coming, so they are not allowed to enter the house. This still is prevalent. This is still prevalent. Even if when a sweeper comes to our house for cleaning, if we give some sweet to them, that some occasion was their family occasion, so take some sweets, they used to say, uh, let's give me here in some other in this. So that practice is going on, and this is something in our mind. We imbibe this, we are imbibing this system. It is in our DNA rather. So how, when it will be changed, then everything will change. We have to change ourselves. We have to, there is a saying called charity begins at home. So charity also should begin with ourselves.
Yes. And I appreciated whenever you use the word low caste, you always said so-called low caste.
So,
Maybe this
yes,
is how charity should begin at home. That we should
yes,
never say anyone low or high.
yes.
It's so-called low caste. So this is how we have to begin. Our students are very curious. Probably they took the message that charity should begin with them, and then it will grow to the larger society, isn't it?
Yes.
Right.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you so much, sir, for your kind words and valuable time which you give to me.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Always welcome. Always welcome. And
And
we should also always question ourselves. We may do some wrong. We are not, all are, we are not, we are very fallible persons. All are. No one is infallible. You know, to err is human. It is said, to err is human. To do wrong is human. But we have to realize ultimately that we have done something wrong, and we should have the courage to say, you should have the courage to say that we have done something wrong. So again, thank you so much, Nandini.
Yes. Okay, thank you. Bye-bye. Kajali, you can propose a vote of thanks before
We
quickly.
will
Huh?
talk later. We'll talk later. Okay.
Sure, we'll talk later.
Please.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your great talk.
Unmute Kajali, you are muted.
Oh, sorry, ma'am. As we come to the conclusion of this enlightening session, I would like to extend to Team Basu for delivering such an insightful thoughts, thought-provoking lecture on life, philosophy, and enduring legacy of Bharat Ratna Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. Sir, your scholarly insight and valuable reflection has greatly enriched our understandings of this important subject. I express my sincere gratitude to our respected Vice-Chancellor, Madam Professor Nandini Sahu, for gracing this occasion with her presence and for her constant encouragement and visionary guidance in promoting academic discourse within the university. I also extend thanks to all the faculty members, technical support staff, and participants who present and cooperation contributed to the success of this program. With this, we conclude today's session. Thank you all once again for joining us. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you all, and I thoroughly enjoyed
Oh,
this
yes.
program. And kindly send me some photographs if you had
Yes, yes.
captured some
We will send
photos,
you the video.
because then I can also share in on
Okay.
some video
There's
Sir,
sessions.
we
more.
can send you the YouTube link. We can send you the YouTube link after we upload this video to the YouTube
Madam
channel of
Kajari,
our
no
university.
one goes through YouTube links to listen. They do not have so
And
much. They are all, busy in making reels. And
I
so in these
I
days,
click
only
through
you can
photographs.
give some. I will also, of course, I could also share the poster that you have made. So I will say,
okay, sir.
but also
We will
send some
send you
one
the
of
poster back.
poster is
Okay, sir.
there. Nandini ji has sent me,
Yes,
and
yes. We will
give me
send.
some photographs. I don't know. It is not very possible to capture photos in
No,
this.
you don't
We
worry.
can
We will
take
send you.
screenshot. We can
Okay.
take screenshot if you want.
Yes. Whatever. Anyway, thank you. I enjoyed. Thank you once again, Professor Sahu, for inviting me, and good luck
Thank
to everyone. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you.
you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you for your